This is CYBR 4220 Server Systems Defense Fall 2021 covering Presentation 3 covering POP3S and SMTPS, and I'm Kevin Burnside. Okay, first up is POP3S. POP3 stands for Post Office Protocol 3. It receives and holds emails for individuals or end user systems, more precisely. Once it downloads the emails from the server, it deletes the copies that were stored on the server from the server so that only the end user system has the emails. It utilizes the TCP IP connection port. POP3S is POP3 but with a TLS connection established before any data exchange occurs. TLS is a cryptographic protocol that is mostly familiar to users through its use in secure web browsing. Notice the padlock that often appears in the web browser denoting secure browsing. It's a evolved form of SSL, so it's just a little bit higher up, but it's still using SSL architecture. TLS does not secure data on the end user system. It simply ensures the secure delivery of data over the internet. It makes it harder for somebody to use a sniffer or injector while transferring content, eavesdrop, while it's moving. Once it's on the end user system, then POP3 no longer has anything to do with it. The encryption can be requested using an STL command, or it can be started when a connection is created using the POP3S protocol, either or. So, as far as hardening tips for POP3, only use SSL certificates from verified certificate authorities. Disable the verify command. Can inadvertently release information confirming accounts on a server when they try to verify, hey, is this person that they've catfished elsewhere on this system, or this user of this email on this system, and it verifies yes. So you just disable that command so that they can't use that to kind of echolocate or ping back and forth. Disable this command eliminates a target providing vector for an offensive actor. Basically, I just said disable email relaying so that if they do get to one email, it doesn't then start using that email to spam to others. Install a spam filtering program service. Spam assassins come up a lot. I'm not sure which one I'll be using for my server. There's a collection of them. Disable plain text authentication. In order to do that, usually, if you've got POP3S, it's not on there, but just on the off chance that some website browser connection is not correctly configured, and then or you forgot to configure it for POP3S for a certain connection, just go ahead and disable the plain text authentication. Versus you edit the authentication config file. There's the whole thing. We're using Dovecot. If you use something else, I'm sure they have their own command. And then you uncomment the authentication line. Don't take it out, just uncomment a line. There's also a few other steps in my sources cited. There's plenty of resources. One of the sources cited is where I've gathered this information from Dovecot themselves. So you can see the other lines and other options once you look at the sources cited. And as mentioned previously, here's my sources cited for POP3S. Ubuntu, of course, always has good sources cited in walkthroughs. ESET is one I didn't know previously, but it did have a good config walkthrough list of commands as well. And the final one is basically just Dovecot and postfix specific, which is going to be useful, especially with our subject matter this semester. SMTPS is a simple mail transfer protocol. SMTPS was SMTP, encrypted using SSL/TSL protocol, which I went over previously. It's an application layer protocol. It's an email transfer protocol. It, like I said, utilizes the TLS protocol as well, just like POP3 does, and utilizes the TCP connection port, just like POP3. If you want to think of it directionality, POP3 is emails coming down from the server. SMTPS is emails going up from end user to server, but also from server to server. So kind of diametric opposites, but really also kind of exactly the same. Okay, SMTPS hardening tips. For Linux/postfix, we have disable the verify command again. Again, it just prevents an attack vector, or really an information gathering vector for an offensive actor, and doesn't send them a response if they try to verify a certain user or combination of users on a server. The less information you give, the longer it takes them to crack the system. And the two biggest strengths to an offensive actor is computing power and time. If you increase one of those variables, then it makes your system much less attractive for them to concentrate on. And unfortunately, a lot of times cybersecurity is about making your system not unbreakable, because you can't, but making it the least attractive target and just letting them go find something else easier. Prevent email relaying. Again, once they get into an email or a user, you don't want them to use that user as a trusted user to start relaying information to other vectors. So always prevent email relaying. Unless you have a certain distribution list, like where I work. I work for a construction company, a training coordinator. I'm on 18 distribution lists easily, that a message goes out and goes from point to point, but it has to coordinate jobs, since we're government contractors. So sometimes you have to have it, but when you first set up your system, disable it to begin with, and then as you need it, you can start modifying the rules to allow email relaying between people that absolutely need it. Remember, always go by principle of least privilege. If you keep that in mind, you really can't go wrong with a lot of stuff. Third is make a backup copy of current postfix configuration for making changes. I know this probably should have a more technical hardening tip, and I'd love to, but I'm sure everyone's got a lot of technical tips. This one is one of those ones that a lot of people don't think about, don't do. I don't do. I mod Skyrim and a bunch of games a lot, and I'm really bad about not making backups about current configurations that I know work. And then I change something and it doesn't work, and I have to demolish everything and build all that back up. So, and just making a backup like that allows you to reload a change if a change caught on one unexpected reaction. In my sources cited, there's a list of commands that allow you to do this. So as far as Windows goes, IIS, limit the total number of connections, decreases DDoS vectors, as well as just the more connections you have, the more vulnerabilities you're likely to have. So maintain an IP blacklist. So if you've got an IP that constantly suspect, or was an attack vector, or is on one of the main national ISACA list, then you want to put that IP on your blacklist. As cybersecurity professionals, our job to keep track of what's current, where the most likely attacks are coming from, where the troll farms are being built at, and keep up to date on regulations and message boards and news boards, and information sharing vectors, so that we can gather information so we can update our blacklist. Configure spam URL block list. There's a lot of programs online that or services online you can download to do it, or you can manually configure spam URL block list. Either way, but spam it's annoying. It can also, too many stories about people getting ransomware or their identity stolen because they opened something they shouldn't have. So the less chance the less opportunity they have to open something, the better it is for everybody. So just block it off. And then activate reverse DNS lookup. This is more of a investigation type tool, but it's still something. It's a good tool for you to have. The more tools you have, the more prepared you are. Of course, sources cited. Only really needed 2 for this one. Postfix, Linux audit is really good, but had postfix hardening guide, which will give you a list of commands to use, and with the list of commands, why you need them. And then the second one, the how to figure SMTP, email, and IIS. Just because I need a little help on that, and it's always good to have another source to look through when you reach a dead end. I threw this here in the end because really, I mean, they're at POP3S and SMTPS. You really need both to have an effective mailing system, especially a server-based mailing system. POP3S retrieves the emails from the server, then deletes the copies on the server side and allows the message to only exist on the end user server, which is a message access agent. Plain and simple. It's just, if you want to look at directionality where the users are at the bottom and the servers are at the top, then it's a downward movement of email. SMTPS sends email from client to server and also from server to server. So it's a message transfer client. Like I said, it's application layer client. If you want to look at directionality, this is emails going up or left and right. So that's the biggest difference in the two and why they're designed to work together.